The day has arrived. Okay, hey, what's up you guys? It's Kayla here. If you didn't know, my name is Kayla and I'm here for another book review. Okay, so in this book review we're going to be talking about After Ever Happy. Whew. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay, so within this series we've talked about After, which is the first of the series. We've talked about After We Collided, which was the sequel to the series. We also talked about After We Fell, which was like the trilogy of the series, and now we are talking about After Ever Happy. You probably know that there is a fifth book, which is called Before. I'm actually currently reading it, so we will talk about it, but as far as the After series, this is the last book, so this is going to be a sad day. Like every other video, I have my little notes, if you will. This book threw me off, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't expecting the ending that we got, but I'm very happy about it. I'm not gonna lie. I can't wait to see what they do with this movie if they ever get the chance to film After Ever Happy. Where we left off with the last of the book review that I was talking to you guys about, we found out that Vance, or Christian, is Hardin's dad. You guys in the last video that I did that Hardin changed a lot in this book, or after, you know, After We Fell, he changed a lot. Like, he really did start to change as a person, and not gonna lie, when I found out that Christian was his dad, I kind of panicked because I thought everything he worked for, all the walls he built back up, you know, instead of guarding people out, and how he was vulnerable, I guess you'd say, he wasn't gonna be like that anymore, because in my head I was like, he's gonna react terrible. Like, it's not gonna be fine. Hardin, you know, after this whole situation had happened, he was talking about Tessa going back to, you know, the States or whatever, and she was just not having it. She was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, we're both going back. Like, you're not staying here. So she calls the phone, or she calls his phone, and someone answers because, you know, obviously Hardin's ignoring her. So someone answers Hardin's phone, and they're like, who is this? And she's like, oh, it's Tessa. And he was like, oh, well, like, did you need the address? And she's like, yeah, I'm so sorry, I forgot, like, where it was or whatever. She shows up, and this girl is wearing, like, his shirt, and it, you know, as if they had just had sex and hooked up and everything. And so Tessa's like pissed, which would any other girl that was dating their guy, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be mad. The way I envisioned it is like her legs are like wrapped around him and he's like standing in between her legs, and they're like, from what I remember, I want to say they're kissing. Oh my, yeah, they're kissing, and he's like, at this point Hardin's been smoking pot, like been drinking like crazy. Tessa goes back to the States, and when she goes back to the States, I think she goes back to Ken's house, and Landon is her best friend, obviously, so Landon's there to you know, be there for her or whatever, and he's the one that takes her to her apartment because she doesn't think she can handle seeing the place alone. And she told Landon, she was like, don't come in, like, I got it, I'll be out, I'll be in, be out, enough. Okay, so in reality, from readers' perspectives, we understand that she just didn't want him in there so she could say goodbye to the apartment and goodbye to a part of her life that was once Hardin. In the bathroom, oh yeah, she walked in the bathroom to fix up her makeup because it was smearing and stuff, I'm assuming where she had cried, and she got into the thing and she had like, it's like something bumped against the door, and she looked down and her dad had a needle in his arm. And keep in mind, I told you guys in the last video that she did not know about her dad's drug addiction because Hardin didn't tell her. So Hardin never got the chance to tell her. Hardin did say, I think your dad's doing drugs, but he never like strictly was like, oh, like your dad's back, he's like doing drugs again. Like, so she ended up finding out that her dad truly was doing this stuff again, like he relapsed, and she actually found out that her dad had died from that. So she walked in and found her dad dead on her floor, and that devastated me because after that Tessa was not herself. Landon had called him, or no, Landon had rung his phone up the chain because nobody would freaking like answer the phone, and someone actually finally had answered the phone because, you know, Hardin wasn't gonna do it. So someone answered the phone and was like, who is this? And I think it was the girl that answered the phone, but I forget what her name is. But anyway, so the girl had answered the phone, and Hardin was like, I told you not to answer that. So like he grabs it and he's like, what the hell do you want, Landon? And he's like, it's about Tessa, and his heart drops, and he's like, what the hell, blah 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 blah, and he's like, Richard's dead. And he drops all his stuff and gets over to the car and literally goes to like be with this girl. And I want to say either calls Carol, Tessa's mom, or calls Noah or something, and eventually, one way or another, Noah ends up taking Tessa and her mom back to their house. And so Noah and Hardin have like not a heart-to-heart, because they both pretty much admit to each other that they'll never understand why the other one has the other one, but at the same time they do respect each other in a way. So I went to go take a shower, and he was like, hell no, you are not going in there, like you got me all the way messed up. And Noah was like, look, I've been a part of her life for a really long time, and he was like, and I know that you don't necessarily care about that. And he basically told Hardin, he was like, look, I know that you're her forever, like you don't have to tell me that. And he was like, I know that whatever didn't work out for me and her will work out for you. Hardin and Carol actually had a heart-to-heart. She was screaming at him, and she's like, you will never be good enough for her, like Richard, like basically comparing Richard and Hardin together. And he was like, I will never be like Richard, blah 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 blah. And she ended up saying like, if I'm not there, if Tessa's not there for me or something, like whoever will. And she starts crying, and Hardin's like, I don't know like what else to do but console her. So he comforts her, and yeah. And then you find out towards kind of the endish of that chapter of her being at her dad's funeral that Hardin had paid for it, and she found out like later on in the book that he paid for it the whole time. One thing that really surprised me was the fact that Hardin had sent Zed to Tessa to make her feel better, and Zed tried to make a move on Tessa in that process. Hardin and Zed ended up fighting, and Zed even screamed really loud. And I mean, I know like low-key Hardin was doing it because he knew he could, but Hardin had screamed, and he was like you will never take advantage of her, whatever, blah 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 blah. And then Zed was like, which surprised me, like it really shocked me that he said this. He was like, if you would have stayed gone just a little longer, I could have like had sex with her basically tonight, or she would have been easy, and she would have given herself up for me. And when I saw that Tessa saw, I was like, thank you Jesus. Tessa ends up leaving and going back to Ken's house with Hardin. They stay in opposite rooms. She stays in the guest room, he stays in his bedroom. At this point, she still hadn't told Hardin that she was changing her mind from Seattle to New York to be with, not to be with literally, but like to live with Landon, because it was in her best interest. She ended up telling him that Karen was pregnant, which meant that it was going to be Hardin's like stepbrother or sister or whatever. Went in telling him that she kind of bluntly but like ignorantly said that she wanted to go to New York, and he kind of blew up and literally went to go find Landon. So he came in the room, he was like, you've got to be out of your mind, you're freaking kidding, thinking you're going to take Tessa from me, like you know I've confided in you this whole time, and you know my biggest fear is like that she'll leave me or whatever, and yet you're the one taking her from me. And he was like, dude, just go ahead and hit me, I don't even care, just hit me, whatever. Homeboy doesn't hit him, just leaves, right, you know, dips, peace out, which definitely shows a change of character, because he would have punched him in the face had he been another time. And Tessa realizes this, and so Tessa decides to leave because it's in her best interest. Well, she goes, I want to say she goes downstairs to talk to Landon, yeah, after she talks to Hardin about the whole incident, and Landon basically calls her out, and he's like, dude, I love you, but you're being really toxic for this family, and like, we don't need this. Like, everywhere you go with Hardin, it's the same thing. And he basically tells her he doesn't think New York's good enough for her to be coming, especially because he knows that Hardin will follow. So with that being in mind, she sits down with Hardin, and she's like, we need to talk. And this scene, y'all, this scene broke me. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like this scene, whew, I was bawling. And she's like, Hardin, if we ever have a chance of being together in the future, you have to promise me one thing. And he's like, at first he's like, no, I'm not promising you nothing, because you know, like, why would you promise something if you don't know what they're asking, you know what I mean? She was like, Hardin, promise me. And he's like, okay, I promise. And he kind of just like, you know, gives in. And she's like, you can't follow me this time. Like, if I'm gonna leave, you can't follow me this time. And he was like, Tessa. And she was like, no, Hardin, you need to stay with your family. Like, you need to stay with them, get to know them better, and all that jazz. And I just remembered that now Tessa's having nightmares. So she doesn't have them all the time like Hardin does, but she has the nightmares now, and that shattered my heart. I was like, oh my god. Okay, so this is when it starts with them spending time apart. So this is from April, which was when that happened, to June, which is what we're in now. So this has been like two and a half, 3-ish months without talking, or like physically speaking and like talking to each other and seeing each other. So Tessa had left. She went back to Seattle, and she worked on herself for a really long time. And eventually, after Seattle, she ended up moving to New York after she got her life together, you know, with the whole Landon situation. So she went to be with Landon in New York, not literally, because, you know, he's like got a whole nother girlfriend. By the way, he's not dating Dakota anymore. And Tessa couldn't enroll in school just yet because she had transferred and it would mess with her transcript or whatever. So she's not in school. She's actually waitressing right now, and she's waitressing at the moment, and this just so happened to be the week that Hardin was going to be coming, so she purposely picked up all these shifts so she wouldn't have to see him. He ended up finding out where she worked, and him being Hardin took initiative to that, and he met up with her after work and waited on her every freaking day until I think he left. Hardin, like I think like there was like at least 4 times they had sex, and every single time he'd be like, will you please marry me now? Like, will you please marry me? And he was being genuine about it. He even had them, I know this is like out of order, but he had even sat down with Tessa in this restaurant and was like, please let me marry you. Like, I love you more than anything and I just want to marry you. To mention that when she found out Karen was pregnant, it made her really upset because, like I did tell you guys, she actually basically went back to the doctor and got it confirmed that she can't have children. So, and if she could have children, it would take a really, really long time. And if she had a child, it'd possibly have been miscarriaged for, you know, I don't know, however long until they could have a kid or whatever. Confesses his love, and he's like, I want to be with you and only you. Like, I want to marry you and have tons of kids with you. She ends up saying, like, I can't have kids. I mean, I'm not, like, she wasn't as blunt like that. Like, it took her, like, at least 3 chapters to finally get it out of her. But she was like, I can't have kids, like, I'll never be Karen, like, you'll never, you know, you'll never get your Karen, like, I'm just your Trish, blah, 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 blah. And he didn't understand what she was talking about until she was finally like, I can't have kids. And he was like, oh my god. And he kind of didn't handle it in the best way, let's just be honest. He told us within the book that he never realized the thought of losing something that he never wanted until he realized that he wanted kids, and now he can't have them with the girl he loves. He kept this binder from when he worked, you know, like as like a what, a freaking publisher or something? Yeah, he wrote the story of their life or their relationship in this book. Well, Tessa flips her crap on him, and Tessa's like, you're gonna explain this to me, blah 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 blah. And he's like, Tess, just listen. And she's like, no, you listen here, motherfucker. Like, I'm not the same little girl that you left 3 years ago, or like the same girl, blah blah blah. Explain this to you. And he passes her the last page, and he's like, I really want you to read this. They don't talk to each other again until like 2 years later, which was so stupid. Okay, I read that, and that literally made me so mad. They literally have only spoke or seen each other 6 times in the last 2 years. How do you go? Oh my god, how do you go 2 years with being in love with somebody and trying to make like a name for yourself, do whatever you want to do, and not talk to them? Like, I don't like, what the f. This chapter, it starts with, you know, like Tessa looking in the mirror or something, and Karen's like, you would be a beautiful bride, or you make a beautiful bride, or whatever she says. So we're all thinking like, hey, like, oh, this is the wedding. Like, okay, maybe like it just kind of jumped and they don't explain why her and Hardin are together or whatever. No, they don't. It's freaking Landon's wedding. So Hardin makes a toast as the best man, and he's like giving this whole thing, and he's like, you really don't understand how much you're missing out on love until you lose the one you love, or something like that. And she storms out of the room and starts crying. So he runs straight after her, and everybody's like, yes, yes, yes. Like, you know, they're all distracted. So he runs after her, and Tessa runs in the bathroom, and he's like, yeah, like, that's ever stopped me before. Like, you ran to the one place you'd think I wouldn't go to, but I am gonna go into it. They have sex in the bathroom, and then he's like, please marry me. And he's like, what do you think about Vegas? Basically, they're just trying to get hitched. So she's like, all right, bet. So they get in the car, and on the way there, he's basically realizing, and this is so sweet, like, I'm telling y'all, this is such a turning point for him. Like, he is like reminiscing in his head, and he's like, as much as I want to marry this girl right now, I would give anything to marry her. Like, I know if we go through with this, she's gonna resent me for it later because her mom wasn't there, and because my parents weren't there, and Landon wasn't there, and all these people weren't there. Yeah, so she fell asleep, and he took her all the way back to Ken's house, and when she woke up, she hugged him and kissed him, and she basically, you know, being thankful that he wasn't a jerk and just decided to go through with it just for the convenience of him. Ended up graduating, and then they tried to have a child. They miscarried the first one, and it just so happens the same night that they miscarried on the first one was when Landon's baby girl was born. That's when Emery was born. Emery is their first daughter, or their first child. A couple years after that, they end up having their second child, and his name is Auden. they never did get married. They still haven't gotten married. The book ends with her, you know, having 2 children, but she didn't get married. But he says, after everything we made it, whatever the hell our souls are made out of, they're the same. I can't believe I've read all these books. Oh my god, that's crazy. I want to thank you guys so much for not getting annoyed with me when I post these videos, because I'm so passionate about this book series and they mean the world to me. This is my video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be back with more Hessa inspired videos or after inspired videos. Yeah, thank you for enjoying this ride, or thank you for coming along this ride. And yeah, I will see you guys for another video.